live now. Happy Friday. Hello, Sue, all the way from down under in Melbourne, Australia. We're getting ready to rock and roll for another installment of Get a Clue in 52. This is the speaker edition. And I'm going to let you, get us going, Sue. How about, today's a special week because it's tip number 20 overall. So we're finishing the second full section. So it's kind of milestone in nature. But you want to go ahead and get us going? You want to introduce us and I'll play along with the graphics and the visuals and so forth?
Well, definitely. Thank you. And happy Friday to you, Jeff. But before we get into that, how are you?
If I was any better, I'd be twins. Things are busy. I'm getting some. So, hey, I'm no different than anybody else. I'm working through challenges and life is always like that. But I'm really excited about this time of year. Finished, a semester earlier in the month of teaching, and now schedules opening up. So some more project related work. I'm going to be traveling next month with my wife. We're going on a little vacation, which we really need. And I'm excited about all the things in front of me. So things are great.
That's fantastic. And as we're celebrating a milestone tip, closing out a second section this morning, I had the privilege of celebrating a very milestone birthday this week.
Oh, yeah. Milestone. Yeah.
Milestone birthday. So yes, it was. I turned to 60, and I feel fantastic, like mentally, physically, emotionally, and it really is cause for celebration from my perspective. And I loved one comment from someone that said, "Welcome to the sensational 60s," and I thought it is. It's just. I really do. I feel so alive and, very much celebrating for me, which has been a lot of fun. Yeah.
Really, really, really good. I know I wish you happy birthday online, but happy birthday again now that we're kind of cyber connected in real time here.
Thank you. Thank you. And on that note of celebration, let's get right into it. So I'm co-author. I'm here with Jeff, who was the inspiration behind bringing this whole project together as a joint effort. But for Jeff, this is his fourth in his series.
Yeah, I could tell you right now. I just happened to have them with me. This is the first one, the original Get a Clue in 52. The light bulbs on there represent the 5 categories. We always break these into 5 categories. The first were accountability, communication, marketing, networking, and sales. Then we did the Entrepreneur Edition with my friend and yours, Vipul Dayal. And the 5 categories here were personal branding, then business acumen, business ownership, leadership and influence, and work-life balance. And then probably up until we did our project, of course, Sue, I think my favorite of the 3 till that point was this one right here, Get a Clue in 52 for coaches, where I put the entirety of my curriculum and I organized these by categories of self-promotion, then engagement, then motivation, then accountability, then practice building. And we're going to repurpose some of that content later on in the year when we get to the volume that we're working through, those 12 tips on practice building, because you can build a practice out of speaking or being a speaker or including speaking in your coaching practice or your consultative practice or whatever it is. So we're going to end the year on 12 tips there. But let me hand it back over to you so you can tell everybody how we got to where we are today.
Yes. So it was the invitation from Jeff to do a joint project. And I put my hand up and said, definitely interested. We went through some options of topics. And when we came to, or Jeff mentioned speakers, immediately I felt that absolutely aligns with where I'm at, what I'm looking to really build out in terms of establishing my own brand, and it fitted. And so we went through that process, and we'll possibly be talking a little bit more about that when we highlight an event that we've coming up, but we'll come back to that later in the session this morning. It was a fabulous process, and it brings us into the 5 categories that we cover in this book, which section 1 is playing the integrity game, and we had 10 tips that made out that section. And this morning we're coming to tip number 10 or 20 overall in our second section, which is bring out your brand. We started off with tip number 1 being don't be a spectator. Need to be active because the marketplace is going to make up their own mind. So if you stand back and aren't making any effort, they're going to decide for themselves who, what you stand for. So way better to be out there deciding what you want the marketplace to see yourself as. Then we talked about a brand versus branding and the difference between the two, where brand is the promise and branding is the delivery of that promise.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Then the third tip in this section, we went into the formula of B equals MP, which is the marketplace. And if we looked at that as a pizza, we're breaking that up into the segments, amplified by our competitive advantages for each of those areas, taking away the jargon, the language that we're comfortable with but makes no sense to those that we're talking to, and replacing that instead with slogans, with information that is attention-getting,
sticky, catchy, memorable.
Yeah, all of that. And we went through those components in tip number 4. What counts as a promise? We then
and by the way, just for clarity, I'm sorry, Sue, but you say 4 within that section, but our banners are like it's 14 overall, right?
Yes, sorry.
I mean, I just want to confuse anybody that's watching visually, like 4, 14, what's going on? So, there's 10 tips in each section. So tip number 14 overall is the 4th tip in this section. Go ahead, Sue. I'm sorry.
No. Thank you. Because otherwise it wouldn't make sense. So tip 14, what counts as a promise? And we were breaking down the formula to just highlight what makes each of the components up. Then we went into making differentiation, where we amplify those competitive advantages.
Yeah, I'll just add to that. Like once we know what our competitive advantages are, that is what amplifies our promises. We are more excited, more eager, more fearless, more voluminous, right, about our desire to put promises out into the marketplace once we know they're backed by our competitive advantages. So I just wanted to add that.
Yep.
And that's when we're talking about differentiation, we talked about that, like just my name or my social security number could differentiate me from every other human, but that just my name or my social security number isn't the reason that people want to hang out with me or buy from me or watch me speak or do business with me or watch my YouTube video, right? So the difference, right, what differentiates me from others needs to be difference making in encouraging people to make a decision to move forward, hang out with me, buy from me, watch and so forth. So that's what we're talking about, difference making, differentiation.
Yeah, definitely. And then to move forward with that, it's about making it simple, getting rid of that language, like we said, get rid of the jargon that just shuts people off.
Yeah, in the equation I'm putting back here, -J stands for the elimination of jargon. The idea is if we brainstorm a marketplace, we break it into segments based on our promises to the marketplace. We brainstorm our competitive advantage. We got all these lists, right? And so the first time it's going to come out, it's likely to be our safe spot, our comfort zone, our jargon, our knowledge base. We need to be proactively able to get rid of that and then replace it with go ahead.
We'll then replace it with the slogans, and that was where we were talking about making it stick, which was tip number 17. And then from there, we moved into tip number 18, which was about be the promise. And in essence, that was bringing all of those elements of the formula together, but integrating them with the integrity game. And then as we do that, we can, through authenticity, who we are, we live out that promise. We our behaviors,
right? Like we embody, like
we're consistent.
our brand promise becomes more than just a marketing slogan, even though it progresses through that piece. It becomes something that we can live, we can show up as, we can embody, represent, actualize in our day-to-day behaviors, decision making, our language choices. And when people are hanging out with us, they feel the promise because we're being the promise.
Yeah. Well, and I think too, because it's not a head thing. It's really heartfelt. It's what we live. And so we are being all of that. And that's where that consistency comes in and allows us to naturally flow into that. And then from there, we moved into tip number 19, which was get up, stand up, and really focused on looking at our passions, the pillars that sit behind them, and it allows us to be our brand day in, day out, because we're so integrated with coming back to the integrity game, our purpose. And so all of that comes together.
One of the things that's interesting about tip number 19 is that so many times you'll hear people saying, oh, got to separate my life and my business, or separate home from the office, or work balance. Let's keep them separate. But the truth is we want to integrate, right? When we're talking about get up, stand up, we're talking about core values. What do you believe in? What would you get up for? What would you stand up for, whether you were making money on it or not? What are your values? Yeah. Honesty, joviality, integrity, communication, connection, vulnerability, authenticity. What are these values that you just value, your core values that just hold you up as a person? And even better if those are infused in the way you do business, or the way that you speak, or the way that you show up on stage, right? You hear a lot about authenticity, and thankfully it's one of, like, being myself, I know, is one of the greatest luxuries I have in life. It's very rarely that you'll find me trying to be somebody else, right? Come hell or high water, I'm showing up as Klooby Dooby with all of my silly jokes and everything, right? But I often get complimented when I'm being self-critical that I didn't say this perfectly, or I could have said that better, or why didn't I gesture this way, or why was I pacing instead of standing and delivering more firm? Or when I'm being self-critical, people come up to me like, oh my God, I loved your talk. I love your talk. And it's because my values of integrity, honesty, and joviality come through in everything that I'm doing. They get me up, they stand me up, and they come through. Yeah. So that takes us, Sue, unless you have anything else to say in review, to today's tip number 20.
No.
Yeah. All right.
That's right.
We're getting, all right. So listen, congratulations. First of all, we're like just about 40% done with our book. Tip number 20 means we're finishing 2 sections. We got 3 sections to go. After today, we've got 32 tips left, 32 weeks in the year. That's just the way it works out. But it's a sense of progress. And I just want to congratulate you and thank you for taking this journey with me. You know, all the other Get a Clues that I've done in the past, I'm prepared to show up every week by myself and just look into the camera as if I'm talking to a million people and let it fly. But I want to say thank you for joining me on the ride this year. It's just, it means the world to me. And here we are working our way through it. So we're at tip number 20. And I'm looking at the word for word of it all, and it looks like I stopped. I mean, I started off. So you have anything that you want to say before we get into it?
No, I'm happy for you to lead off and take us through the tip.
Yeah, you've got a couple of good dialogue boxes here, but let me work our way to them. Okay, here we go. So tip number 20, without any further ado. And by the way, I always forget to do this, but yeah, I'm Jeff Klubeck, founder, author of The Integrity Game and the Get a Clue in 52 series. But having gotten that out of the way, let's get back to avoiding humiliating humility. This tip cautions you to beware of the dishonesty of humility. It's kind of like when I offer people peanuts when I'm enjoying a bag at a ball game. So many times people will say no, and I know they're only saying no to be polite, or what they believe to be polite. Then I tell them that they're trying to be polite, and I believe being polite is a form of dishonesty, especially if the person really does want some peanuts and really would enjoy a little handful at a ball game of all places. Smiley face. I mean, let's be honest. Who doesn't want peanuts at a ball game? All right. So the same thing is true when it comes to branding and humility. A ball game is not the place to say no to a couple of peanuts offered by a fellow fan. And branding is not the time to be humble. If you, like Sue, have been proactive, serious, diligent, hardworking, perhaps even soul-searching about your purpose, promises, passions, pillars, strengths, and advantages, you deserve to shout your brand from the rooftops or from the tops of mountains. Okay, let me say that again. You deserve to shout your brand from the tops of mountains. If you've done all of this work to really imagine the ingredients of your brand. Moreover, back to word for word, when you know, and I mean absolutely know, you can back up your promises and deliver what you say you will deliver, how you say you will deliver it, you are making a big mistake in being humble about it. Your audience needs you. The world needs you. Let them know you're here. I had a neighbor who was a real estate agent, but you'd have to talk with him to know it. He wasn't the agent that knocked on your door. He had a magnetic sign on his car or left flyers on your doorstep. He didn't attend networking events, let alone speak at community events as a subject matter expert on trends affecting buyers, sellers in the community. Well, one day, another mutual neighbor had a sign in his lawn that his house was now for sale. As we all went to our cars to leave for work, I watched in pain as I saw my real estate agent neighbor confront my home selling neighbor. Quote, how on earth could you live right across the street from me and have my competitor's sign in your lawn? The seller simply replied, I'm sorry, neighbor. I did not know you were a realtor, and got in his car and drove off matter-of-factly. The realtor came back to his own car and within earshot of me said, can you believe that guy's been living across the street from me for 9 years and never took the time to learn that I'm a realtor? Do I need to reprint what I said to him to finish the story? Smiley face. Quote, neighbor, the fact that he does not know you are a realtor is 100% your fault, not his. Branding is not the time to be humble, and I hope you avoid the humiliation that a humble approach might cause you. Again, your audience needs you. The world needs you. Be fearless. The work it takes to answer all the questions I've posed in this section earns you the right and obligation to be fearless in getting your messages in position to make the impact they are capable of.
And what I find interesting with this is a story that I followed for so many years, to speak with humility. And in many ways, I've been sabotaging myself. As I reflect on various points in the integrity game, my purpose, my gifts, my potential, all the experiences and learnings I've accumulated, I can see that if I'm to serve and grow, I have a responsibility to shout my brand from the rooftops.
I love these insights, Sue, because you are a seasoned professional. I'm sure you can see that humility is humiliating in branding, and this is the time to let that go.
Okay, now I see why it was a little too soon to jump directly into speech writing when playing the integrity game, and that was something that I referred to earlier in the book.
Yeah.
But it seems like the work I must do ahead of time has doubled now that I have this soul-searching work of playing the integrity game, and also the work of your branding equation, which is B equals MP divided by the promises, multiplied by the competitive advantages, take away the jargon, add the sloganeering. Is it still too soon to take a look at your 8-step speech writing process, or do I need to finish your branding equation first?
No, I think it was important and also enough for now simply to introduce the work of branding, to make the importance of branding and the elements of a brand part of your lenses through which you learn the 8 steps. And now is as perfect a time as any. In fact, I'm already thinking of an extra bonus tip or two when it comes to strategies for preparing to speak. So I'm ready to get into it if you are. Just remember, from the perspective of playing the integrity game, that we are now leaving.
Yeah, that's correct.
Is that right? That we are now leaving.
Yep.
Well, section 2, not tip 2. Why am I confused by that?
Tip two from the integrity game.
Oh, okay, got it. All right, so here we go. Just remember, from the perspective of playing the integrity game, that we are now leaving tip number 2, gifts and competitive advantages, and heading back to tip number 5, strategies, tactics, and resources. That does make sense to me. I can even bring up a visual on that in a minute. Can you see that regardless of which of its 10 points we are working on in any given moment, the integrity game is on at all times?
And in the book, for those tuning in, where am I? I finish off with a comment that says, yeah, when you put it that way, let's have a look at these 8 steps you were talking about then. And really that is, from a writing perspective, that was to transition us into the next section. And I just want to highlight that.
Yeah, you know what? As a matter of fact, what I want to do right now is a couple of things visually to just bring this home. Let me go into present. Let me wish me luck that all of this works. And then we'll go window, and we'll go here, and we'll go share. Tell me if you can see my screen. Oh God, system preferences. And again, I don't know if I want to do this because I'm on a new computer, right? Let's just see. Allow. Let me just see. Okay, screen system sharing should be good.
So while you're looking for that, what I might comment
I'm so sorry.
is...
Yeah, go for it.
No. What I might comment is that even though in the book I've written that little blurb to transition us into the next section, what I did want to highlight is that comment that you finish off with, that regardless of which of the 10 points we're working on in any given moment, the integrity game is on at all times. And that is so true. And that's what I love about the framework of the integrity game, is that it doesn't matter where our focus is in any one time. We find that we are fitting into that framework in any moment, which makes it so valuable. And as we've talked about with through these tips of bringing out your brand, we at times have referenced back to elements of the integrity game. And I really just want to emphasize that has been my personal experience and continues to highlight the value to me as a practitioner in speaking or other professional emphases that I might want to pick up on, just how important all of that is. And certainly these two sections integrate so well together.
Yeah, I really appreciate that, Sue. It's like, because, the integrity game is a totally different book, right? Than the Get a Clue in 52. And what we decided to do is capitalize on the foundational and the ever-present value of its 10-point model and made it the first 10 tips of the book that we're working through. And since I launched the integrity game a little over 2 years ago, I've seen how it lives and breathes in different circumstances, right? I'm seeing it as just what your comments just now, how you're personally approaching it and how you're seeing its principles weave its way through all the other tips. But I've seen it in the classroom at San Diego State. I've seen it in, at a seminar, right? Like a wellness seminar as the keynote that gets people ready to, learn strategies and invest in their practices. I've seen it, as the front end of a training, a soft skill training I've seen it to do high performance team building motivation. I've seen it as online at a Project Management Institute happy hour in Orange County and San Diego. I mean, so I'm seeing all of these different approaches or all of these different contexts, all these different environments where it lives and breathes. And it's just really exciting and rewarding for me to see, imagine a future for the integrity game. Now, I am challenged in pulling up the visuals that I wanted to pull up. Just because I'm on a new computer and I haven't made the time to go in and unlock the settings and everything. But what I want people to know is that at the end of section 2, we've got a little worksheet for you, the reader, to break out your pen and actually make some notes about the marketplace, about your promises, and how does that cut your marketplace into segments? What are some keynotes or keywords about your promise to the marketplace? What are your competitive advantages? Can you recognize any jargon in the way that you're describing yourself? Can you put yourself in a position to get rid of that and start to be creative and fun-loving and sticky and memorable and short and punchy with your sloganeering? By the way, if you need some help, I'm pretty fun to work with in that regard, right? And so we've got some action item steps here that help you bring out your brand. That's the name of section number 2. We want to bring out your brand. So just to reset, we play the integrity game to get our foundation and our structural integrity, foundation and structural integrity, like building a house, right? But then we bring out our brand, which is what do we want the walls to look like? What about the flooring? What about the window coverings? What about the carpet? What about the landscaping? What about the paint? What about, that's our style. That's our promise. That's what people can expect when they come to our house. When you're driving by a house, if based on the outside, the curb appeal, if you want to go into that house or not, or you can have an imagination for what type of experience you'll have at home just by driving by and taking a look, right? That's why we don't want to be passive about our branding. We want to be actively setting those expectations. And so now that we've got the 10 tips down for foundation and structural integrity, and now that we've brought out our brand, now we're ready to start having people over. Right now we're ready to, does that make sense? We're ready for
invite
audiences
them in.
now. Yeah. And so what we're going to do starting next week is we're going to open up a brand new section number 3. We call it Be Fearless, because I've got an e-course called 8 Steps to Fearless Public Speaking. We've distilled it into 8 of these next 10 tips. I've added a couple of bonus tips so we'd have fully 10 tips in the section, but that's what we're going to get into. The first 2 sections are for speakers and non-speakers alike. I mean, don't let the packaging fool you. We say get a Klu in 52 for speakers, but be clear that the first 20 tips and the last 12 are for any practice builder. I don't care if you want to be a chiropractor or a lawyer or an architect or any practice that you're building, right? These 32 tips, section 1, section 2, and section 5 work for you. It's just these 2 sections in the middle, section 3 and section 4, starting with Be Fearless. These are really speaking specific, but if you can still extrapolate what we're talking about to any type of thought organization, curriculum building, organizing. Content is key when we're figuring out our approach to content-based marketing and social media and blogs. And it doesn't have to be just speaking. A lot of these tips will help you with any type of content you're producing to market your business. But we are couching this and packaging this in terms of tips for speakers. And we see ourselves as speakers. We've done speaking. We want to do more speaking. We want to bond with, connect with, and be valuable for aspiring and emerging speakers. So that's where we're at. Now, what else you got for today, Sue?
We're talking about being fearless in terms of the next section, and I think that we're focusing more on the content, whereas I think the tip today where we're talking about avoiding that humility or humiliating humility is as much about how we are, how do we present ourselves. And I think that for me, that's just been such an eye-opener in terms of understanding that playing that humility game is shrinking myself. It's pulling me down, and it goes against everything that I need to be. And I love what you said at the bottom of page 91 in this tip, where it says your audience needs you, the world needs you. We want to be out there, but we want to, when we apply the integrity game and when we go through the tips that and do the work that we've talked about previously within building your brand, we can do that with such honesty and authenticity that we're not bragging. We're not, we're not being, I had the word before and now I've lost it. We're not being arrogant in terms of how we share our message. And when we do the work that we've talked about, it's going to land with our audience because we know that we're meeting their needs. So why wouldn't we show up?
Yeah. Can I tell a recent anecdote that I may have told this story before in previous editions of Get a Klu in 52 this year with you, but it's becoming appropriate again. We're talking about the fearlessness. We're talking about having done all of the work to really imagine these ingredients and rolled up our sleeves and done the work, not just spray and pray, but really imagine core values and competitive advantages and promises I know I can make and keep that are sensational. What problems do I solve for people? What pain do I get them out of? What pleasure do I get them into? On and on and on. I like my words, but still you got to have the egolessness to get rid of that jargon and be vulnerable. And you got to take some chances with some stickiness and be willing to be laughed at when people say, oh, the hugular guy or whatever, right? I do all that stuff, right? I've done the work, right? But what happens is, here's the situation. Our good friend and author of the foreword for our book, She's the CEO of International Speakers Network, Lisa Reed. She is holding her monthly meeting at International Speakers Network, and she's really wonderful to, at the beginning of her meeting, invite others to announce speaking opportunities for people that have podcasts or know of summits, or if anybody out, it's like, if any of my speakers that are joining, any of my members know of speaking opportunities or looking for speakers, then go ahead and step up to the microphone and announce your thing. And so now one of my best friends in the planet, and I've only known her like 3 months, is Diane Forster. So she gets up and she says, hey, I'm doing this 3-day online event, and it's for women. I'm looking for 100 women that are empowered and have a mission and want to get their mission out the biggest place possible. I'm in the business of grooming and mentoring TV star hosts. And I'm looking for 100 women that want to create their own TV show on my network, that she's a high-level person in this, TV network with distribution. I don't even understand all of it yet, right? But the idea is TV is always a powerful medium. Doing your own show creates your own asset. There's a lot of people that have messages to get out, and I'm like, hey, and I'm just listening, and I was just imagining, well, I know that she was going to invite people to a 3-day online event that was like $99 or $149 or something, but at that event, she was going to show them, hey, everybody, this is what the world is about. This is how you do it. This is how you get it done. And I was wondering, I'm like, wow, what a dynamic woman. And because I know who I am, I know what I'm capable of doing. I know what promises I can make to the marketplace. I know how that cuts. So Diane, somebody that's hosting her own event, that becomes a market segment for me, right? Because now I can say, as a supporting coach and speaker, I promise, right? Now here we're again bring out the brand. Now I'm fearless. I didn't just think about this. It's because I've done all of the work. I reached out. Hey, Diane, I loved what you had to say about what you're doing. I know that your mission is to empower women, but can men play? I've got a wife. I've got a daughter. I've got, I believe in what's, empowering women. And moreover, I'm a really good speaker and coach. And I'm just curious about your event. Do you have somebody that's going to be speaking and providing coaching for your participants to help? Are you ready with the brand promise to increase the engagement, credibility, and revenue for your 3-day event? And she went, what? And it just landed. And I was fearless about making that promise. And lo and behold, back to what you said, Sue, she's like, you know what? I don't know you from Adam, Jeff, but I just got a feeling about you. And it was because of how succinctly and clearly I communicated, which showed my listening for her, and then my connected dots in the way I presented myself fearlessly, right? And it was bold, and it was a younger me wouldn't have done it younger years and years ago. And what was incredible about it, and this goes back to what you picked up on the bottom of page 91, the world needs you. The world needs me. Diane, she would have done fine without me, right? But she took a chance. Like, hey, Jeff, how about I give you a 30-minute speaking spot on day 2, and you run the coaching zone for us? And it's going to be kind of, I don't know what the balloon, I got to really adjust these settings. But anyway, how about you run the coaching zone? My hands are making all this stuff happen. I don't know. I got to really adjust the settings on this new computer to take the time to do that. But anyway, back to the story.
It's too intuitive.
I fearlessly told her, I said, if you don't, I'm like, you're doing sales at your 3-day event, right? She's like, yeah, I have an offer for my participants to take them through my academy and to give them a spot on my network for their own show. And I help them produce their own show, and I mentor them and the whole thing. And I'm like, okay, well, are you going to be the subject matter expert and do your own sales? Like, are you going to go from the front of the room to the back? Like, how's this working out? How are you organizing this? If you don't mind telling me. And she's like, you know what? We've been looking for somebody like you. You know what I mean? That's how it ended up coming out. So shout out, by the way, to her amazing event planner, Linda Kane, head of Blue Diamond Productions or Blue Diamond Events, where, it came out later that Diane said to me, I was talking with Linda that we could really use somebody in this role. But they were thinking about a salesperson, right? But what they got in me is a competitive advantage. I wasn't doing sales. I was coaching, which increased sales. Does this make sense? So I'm so aware of my competitive advantages. I'm so aware of what I can promise. And I found ways to make it sticky, succinct, punchy, and catchy that it didn't take more than 30 minutes in my first conversation with Diane for her to come back and say, Jeff, going to be like audition in nature, because I'm taking a big chance. I can't put you in front of my prospects because each one represents a $30,000 investment, right? So I got to be very careful about this. So it was a contingency deal. Like, I was only going to get paid on that assignment if the event produced.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And suffice it to say, I'm invited back for the next one, and I'm part of a team, and she's going to release her blog, and I'm going to continue to be a supporting coach in her ecosystem. I love her so much, and I believe in what she's doing. But if I didn't have the fearlessness to make my brand promises to her, if I didn't do the work of the integrity game and bringing out my own brand, right, like you're suggesting, then I never would have had bandwidth to imagine that, oh, this woman might need me, because I wouldn't have had command of what my promises are, how I would communicate. But it's just a wonderful story. Now, here's what's really cool about that story. First of all, I met Diane through Lisa Reed, who wrote the foreword for our book. And are you ready? Drum roll, please. Save the date, June 25th, here in San Diego. I'm going to get all three of you, Sue, Lisa, and Diane, on a panel called Authors Hour, because we're all published authors. We all have our journey about writing our book, publishing our book, marketing our book, selling our book, and then building the rest of our brand around our book, or integrating our book into our overall approach to business and what we're doing with our careers. So I am going to be the host. I'm going to facilitate. The panel is going to be 3 super powerful and empowering women, which warms my heart to really shine a light on you guys and show the world what's going on. And it's going to be open to members and non-members alike at the University Club. We are going to have from 5:30 to 6:30. We're going to have networking / book signing. So authors are going to have their copies in the book. And so people that come up and have some light bites and order a drink and have us sign books for you. I'll have all of my books there, and Sue will be there with hers, and Lisa's going to be there with her books, and Diane's going to be there with her books. And then plus, I ran these events in 2022. So there's some other members like Vipul Dayal and G.A. Bartik and some others that have books in storage from past Authors Hours events. So we're going to have a bunch of books available for people to get signed or to take home with them. And then at 6:30 p.m., that's when we'll start the 1 hour of programming, where I will facilitate panel style discussion to bring out the brands of you, Lisa, and Diane, but then also facilitate any masterminding for participants that are showing up that have a book inside of them, and they want to ask you guys questions about your journey to get more confident about theirs. And of course, obviously my skills are going to be on display all the while. So it's really fun to be featured in my selflessness. This is when humility is not humiliating, when you've got other people to shine a light on, right? There's nothing humiliating about that, right? So I'm not being humble unnecessarily. I'm just wise in putting together a power panel of awesome women that's I want to be the promise. I want to associate myself as somebody that plays the integrity game, brings out people's brands, supports empowering women, on and on and on. Inspiring emerging authors, aspiring emerging speakers, aspiring emerging coaches. Right? This is who I want to be in this world, right? Because the world needs more of us. The world's waiting for us. Just like, somebody once told me, what you seek is seeking you, right? And so that's definitely true in my connection with Diane, but more to our point today, right, is the fearlessness with which I can proactively approach somebody with not thinking twice about, am I going to look silly? Am I going to look dumb? None of those questions I used to ask 20 years ago. Right? I know what my promise is. I know how to communicate it succinctly. I just need to ask a couple of questions, let her know why I reached out, ask a couple of questions to pave the runway for my brand promises to land. And I told her point blank, I can increase the engagement, the credibility, and the revenue of your event if you don't already have somebody in this role. And it's just a beautiful story. And I can't wait to get us all together in the same room on June 25th, a little over a month away. So what do you have to say about that? How do you like them apples, Sue?
Wow. I'm so looking forward to it. It will be amazing to have Lisa there to, I'm part of that International Speakers Network. I get online once a month, but to be able to be in physical proximity and be in the same room with her will be amazing. I remember Diane from that session, although I didn't get to meet her. So it will be amazing.
Diane and Lisa, they're both like powerful, in what they're doing, right? And they're both people that I look up to and admire a great deal. It's going to be wonderful just to be associated with them. Like, talk about meeting in person, the hugs are great, but let's be honest about this. I'm looking for some pictures. I'm looking for some photo ops. I'm looking for some, so I'm looking into a videographer so we get mic'd up and get professional video of the programming, because that's something that I could repurpose later on for the university club to build the event and make the event a regular institution at the university club. But of course, you obviously, you're coming all the way to the United States, and you want to get together with your co-author Jeff, and let's get some pictures and some video together, right? And so look at this whole big thing that we're building around it. So enough of a reason is often enough of a reason to get into action. So I'm excited. The event's coming together. We're going to put the marketing and the graphics together. We're going to start emailing and posting on social once I get everybody's headshots. And Stella is standing by, waiting to collect all this information and put the graphics together. It's just super, super cool. And again, what we've been talking about largely in section number 2 is this equation. Your brand is the marketplace, which is divided by your promises to the marketplace into market segments. And then those promises we're going to amplify. We're going to be more excited. We're going to amplify, multiply, right, the volume of our promises, because we know what our competitive advantages are. But in communicating those, I couldn't call Diane and say, "Hey, Diane, do you know that I have a master's degree in communication, and I did a 2x4 factorial design with 8 experimental conditions and 279 subjects when I operationalized the variables of diffusion of innovation research to find out whether or not students would be willing to take college level courses online?" No, I got rid of all of that jargon, right? And said, "Hey, I'm going to do a checkup from the neck up with your audience and get them engaged and believing and buying," or whatever. I didn't say it like that, but you know what I'm getting at. So this is what we've been talking at. Yeah. And so we want everybody else out there to know that we have a free report, Bring Out Your Brand report. So tinyurl.com, and TIG is for the integrity game. BOYB is for Bring Out Your Brand. It's one of these deals, like, we're super transparent about this, right? The marketing team told me, you give us your email address, we'll give you the report. That's what they said is going to happen. Okay. It's a nice little exchange. You give us the email, we give you the report, but then the report is going to lead you to your ability to sign up for 2 complimentary coaching sessions with an integrity game certified coach. If you, in signing up, you mentioned Get a Klu in 52 for speakers, we'll make sure that you're paired with either Sue or myself. We'll do our best to make sure that you get to work with us directly, especially if you reference that you came through that funnel through this program. So we're doing all of that. And shout out again to Lisa Reed, who is the CEO of International Speakers Network and founder of Get Speaking Gigs Now. She's going to be on the panel on the 25th. And I haven't created a banner yet for Diane, but I'll have one by next week. That is for sure. And as a brief reminder, before I get into last call, we've covered tip number 20 today, which closes out section number 2, which gets us ready to start section number 3 next week. Section number 3 is now putting pen to paper. We've got 2 tips up front before we get into the 8 steps to fearless public speaking, but that's what we're getting into, is organizing our content, writing, drafting, outlining our speech to put us in a position to start practicing on our feet and dealing with all of the nonverbal aspects. But we need our content structure first, and that's what we're going to get into. So having said all of that, I think we're ready for the last call. Sue, what do you think?
Definitely last call. And it's always a pleasure to hang out with you at this time. I love the energy you bring. Your brand is your joviality, and it's a lot of fun to share that with you.
Thank you. I will say that I've gotten in the habit the last couple of years of just saying it's mutual. Anytime somebody says, "I love you this," or "I love you that," or "I really like this," or "I really like that," it's mutual. It likes you too. My joviality, I love hanging out with you too. My joviality loves you too. It's mutual, Sue.
Thank you. It's a lot of fun. So this book is tips. It covers. It's almost, I guess, an icebreaker of the topics that we cover. There's so much value in this book. I cannot recommend enough for anyone to get into it, get into the content, take start doing a deep dive and do the work, because it's worth it. The value
Wonderful.
and the, I think what people get out of it, and you've just given that story. You've given that story of, by doing the work, you show up fearless, you're confident, that whole question of, am I good enough, or what do I say? It just doesn't happen.
It flies out, yeah.
Because you've got that foundation in place. And I guess I just can't emphasize that enough, to the value in doing the work.
Awesome. Well, I'm grateful. It's like, I don't know what to say. It's a little tongue-tying. Again, the milestone, we finished section 2, but want to take a deep breath and get ready to open up a brand new section next week. And that's going to, there's 5 journeys within this journey, right? And they all add to each other. Each step builds on the last. So I just want to say thank you again, Sue, for taking this ride with me and stepping up when I put it out there. If anybody out there right now is watching a recording of this and you're interested in co-authoring a book and marketing it with me all year long, we could talk about what that could look like next year. We'd want to start in the next month or 2, so we're not scrambling at the end of the year like Sue and I were a little bit. Can you believe we wrote this thing it was 4 to 6 weeks we got the whole thing done, right?
Something like that. It was bang, 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 bang.
So I enjoy that, but I'm smart enough to know that we should start a little sooner. But anyway, we'll get it done. But I just want to say thank you, Sue, for being my partner on this journey this year. And I can't wait to see you in person for the first time in several years. Next month, it's coming. Yes. It's going to be here soon before we know it. And we're going to open up a whole new section next week about being fearless. So I don't have anything else for today. Unless you don't have anything, I'm happy to say happy Friday, or it's Saturday. It's Saturday for you, right?
Saturday for me. Yes.
Well, have a great rest of your birthday weekend. Celebrate in full. And I know that you and I will have some touch points in between now and next week, but I'll definitely look forward to seeing you next week for tip number 21 overall, which will be the first tip in section 3, be fearless. 3. All right.
Fantastic.
Anything else?
Look forward to it.
Okay.
No,
all right.
Thank you.
Wonderful, Sue.
Have a great rest of the day.
All right. Thanks, everyone. Bye-bye.
Bye.